Welcome to our IGCSE option talk for Year 9. It's a real shame I can't invite you all and welcome you all into school, but hopefully this is a good alternative way of getting the information to you. One thing I would like to stress is if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You'll find my email right at the very end of the video. Thank you. Many students look forward to this. They really like the idea of personalising their education and choosing the subjects that interest them most and the ones that excite them the most and the ones that are going to be most use to them. It's really important that they don't rush into this, they think about it carefully. The choices that they make today could well set them on a path for the rest of their lives. It is a big decision and some doors they may find get shut if they make bad choices or choices they later regret. So think about this carefully. Having said that though, the reality is perhaps a bit more like this slide than the previous one. It's not so much a crossroads at GCSE options as the general direction of travel. You should find that in the future you're able to pull things back and move into a different direction if that's what you want to do. But obviously you've already travelled off in one direction, it's a long journey to get to the other direction and you're just making life harder for yourself. So bit of thought, bit of care, bit of thinking about it, and life will be much easier for you. What do I mean by that? Well, in year 7, 8, 9, they do around about 14 subjects, and now that's going to be narrowed down to around about 8 or 9, depending on what options they choose. A levels, it's 3 or 4, and then obviously you end up at university where you're more specialised still. Where it becomes difficult is if you wanted to do something, say at A level you haven't done at GCSE, and that may not be possible. Or you want to do something at university you haven't done at A level. Again, may or may not be possible. This idea of narrowing it down means the choices you make today have implications for tomorrow. IGCSEs are the international equivalent of the exams that students sit at normally the age of 16 in England and Wales. And the I just means that they take out references to things that perhaps if you lived in the UK you would know about, but if you live in Thailand it's not something you would know about. And they have a more international viewpoint of case studies and topics studied and are far less centred on the UK. It's not one qualification. You get one qualification for each subject, and how you do in one subject doesn't have any impact on how you do in another subject. So it's important that students think about this and know this, that they can't rely on doing well in one subject to help them out in another. The IGCSEs are set by Cambridge Assessment, which is part of Cambridge University. We don't see the exam papers until after the students have sat them. We don't mark them, they finish their exams, they go in an envelope that's sealed before it leaves the exam room even, and they get sent off to Britain to be marked. So it's not something we have any influence over whatsoever. The grading goes from A star, which is the best, down to G, which are all considered passes, but really most people look at A star to C, and that's what we're looking for progression to sixth form. It's what employers look for. Courses are assessed by a mixture of exams and coursework, depending on what the subject is. There may be more coursework, there may be less coursework, some there is no coursework. It depends on what subjects you're doing. So how does that all work at Charter? Students will typically sit 8 subjects, but there is options to do extra exams in, for example, English and Maths, which would lift it up to 8, 9, maybe even 10. Like most schools, everyone will do English language. For some students that'll be English first language, and for some that'll be English second language. For the first language students, there is the option of studying literature as well, so they get 2 GCSEs for the price of 1. They'll get an English language qualification and a separate English literature qualification. Again, like virtually every other school, everyone has to do maths. It's one of those subjects that universities demand. Doesn't really matter what course you want to do, you need to have a maths qualification. Everyone also has to study a second language. If you're Thai, That has to be Thai by law. You have to study 5 lessons of Thai a week. If you're not Thai, it will be Mandarin, and that could be first language Mandarin or second language Mandarin. So that's the compulsory core taken care of. They then also, on top of that, have 5 optional subjects to choose from. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at the screen, on Monday, period 1 and 2, 9A, all go to art. Then after break, all of year 9 have maths, and then all of 9A go to computing, and then in the afternoon they all have English and all have science. That's not how it will be next year. That's not how it's going to be next year though. It will be different. As you can see from this extract from the current year 10's timetable, Monday 1 and 2, because they all have to do maths is at the same time. So year 10 all go off to maths Monday 1 and 2. After break though, some of them will go to physics with Dr. Marsh, some of them will go to geography with Miss Brown, and some of them will do Mandarin with Miss Danny. After lunch, some of them will go to ICT, some of them will go to computer science. Then some will go to art, and some will go to biology, and some will go to geography. Okay, it depends what you choose. You'll notice geography appears twice. Some subjects appear more than once, so we can give you as much choice as possible. You can't choose geography more than once. Like most schools though, the difficulty is we can't timetable every possible option. Okay, it's not possible. So therefore we've put as many options in as we can, but it's inevitable. Some people won't be able to choose precisely what they want. It's the same in every school, every year. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll do some work in Homeroom to help you think about the variety of options that are available to you after you finish school, university and careers, and the almost infinite number of possibilities that are open to you. But you do need to think carefully, because some of your choices today or in the next couple of weeks will limit what you can do in the future. For example, the most obvious example of this is medicine. If you want to be a doctor, you need to have studied the right subjects now. And by the right subjects for medicine, I mean GCSE biology and GCSE chemistry. If you haven't got those two, you can't do A-level chemistry, you can't do A-level biology, and if you don't have A-level chemistry and biology, you're not going to be accepted onto being a doctor. It's as simple as that. The other thing I would add is you can't just wish it into being. You actually have to be good at these subjects. You have to be getting top grades if you want to be a doctor. It doesn't just happen because you want it to. So how should they make their choice for what subjects to choose? Things you are interested in, you tend to do well at. Things that you enjoy, you tend to do well at. I think this is also important given that we're talking about where it might lead in terms of career. If you don't enjoy something, like say science, why would you want to then become a doctor? You're going to hate every moment of it, and you're not going to be good at it. Okay? It does need thought apart from just ambition. It needs thought. The point about subjects being easy or not, they're all about the same level of difficulty, but obviously some people have a talent for art. If I ask Miss Inceman to do GCSE art, she will find it unbelievably easy. And if I'm to do it, it's unbelievably difficult because I am no good at art. So it depends what you're good at. Don't think about, oh, I like the teacher and we'll get them. I can't guarantee yet which teacher's going to teach what. I haven't looked at the timetable. Don't base decisions on any of these things, please. I can't emphasize the importance of this enough. The students who do well tend to be the ones who want to do well, and they're the ones who put in the effort and the time and make it happen. When they don't understand something, they spend time at home learning about it, making sure they do understand it. They're the ones who come in and say, I couldn't do this, can you help me? Rather than just shrugging their shoulders and go, oh well, couldn't do this. You've got to put that time and effort in at home to make this work. If you do that, you almost certainly will be successful. As a side note, in the run-up to any tests or exams, and making sure they prepare for exams effectively will really help their grades. And students tend to be quite poor at this. They tend to read their notes again and again and again, and it's such a time-consuming, ineffective way of studying. They need to revise and study without their books. And for example, brain dump, write everything they know about a subject down. And when they've written it down, then and only then do they look back through their notes, through their books, and see what they didn't know. Make a note of the gaps, make a note of the things they got wrong, shut their books again, and do it over again. If you do it with your books, your brain will fill in the gaps for you, and you won't actually remember things without your books. It's so important they do this without their books, do the work, then open their books and check. As you move through the school, the amount of work we expect you to do at home is slowly increasing. And for IGCSE, you'll get approximately 3 subjects a night, and each one's homework should last you somewhere between half an hour and 40 minutes. So you do need to be organised, and you do need to allocate time for this. I can't emphasise how important parental support is in this. Just to ask how they're getting on, can you help? You may not get much of an answer, but it's so important that you show an interest. I really also want to emphasise that other interests are vital and are important. It is no good just focusing on school. It is not the way to optimise success. These other things all contribute to academic success and are just as important as doing lots and lots of schoolwork. Things that students should be doing as well as schoolwork that will help them be A, healthy, and B, in their schoolwork include things such as regular exercise. Lots of studies point to being fit and healthy aids you in your studies and your schoolwork. Again, there are endless studies showing a link between the food you eat and your mood, and how alert you are and how awake you are, and your ability to do well in school. If you eat nothing but junk food, you're not going to be able to study effectively. So a healthy, balanced diet is very, very important to success at school. This is a big one for our students. Sleep is really important. They need at least 8 hours sleep. They are going through big physical and psychological changes, and their brains and bodies need that sleep. It's not just the amount of sleep, it's the consistency of sleep that's important. So don't think you can bank that sleep over Saturday and Sunday and then skimp Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's important that you get the same number of hours sleep every day, as near as you can, and the same time of sleep every day, as near as you can. It makes a huge difference to your ability to do well. Very much linked to that is the time they spend with their devices before they go to bed. Devices give out blue light, and that stops the brain relaxing and makes it much, much harder to go to sleep. All of the students know this, they get told it again and again and again. They need help with this. It is not something that's easy for them to do, and perhaps as adults it's easier for us to mock, but it's not easy for students to do this, so they need help. Perhaps agreeing to turn off, say, the Wi-Fi half an hour before you expect them to go to sleep, so they have to turn their devices off, have to go to sleep. Also, devices have a sleep mode, which means notifications are turned off, say, from 9:30, 10 o'clock, say, through to 6. It's really difficult for them to ignore a ping on their phone. It's almost like a drug. They have to react to it. If it doesn't ping, they don't react. So I would strongly advise nighttime settings for devices. Don't bring your devices into the room where you're sleeping at night, and half an hour away from your device before you go to bed will allow you to have a good, solid night's sleep and be ready for school the next day. I think we would all agree that to study medicine at university requires academic success, but that's not the number one thing universities are looking for when choosing people to accept onto their medicine courses. The most important thing they're looking for is someone who's a good communicator. Obviously you do need that academic success, but what they're after is a good communicator, and that's the key skill to being a doctor. This applies to all sorts of things. It is not enough to be good at exams. Everyone applying to those university courses that you want to go to, they will have exam success too. It is the other stuff that will make you stand out. It's the other stuff that will give you the edge and make you interesting and a successful. As I said earlier, we'll spend a lot of time over the next couple of weeks in Homeroom looking at ideas and opportunities for university courses and career paths and so on. And one of the reasons for doing this is so students can get themselves ahead. An obvious one is we have a significant number of students who want to be fashion designers, for example. If you want to be a fashion designer and study fashion at university, you have to be able to show an interest in it. And how do you do that? By designing and making your clothes is the most obvious way. You cannot get to year 13 and go, oh, I fancy being a fashion designer, and make an interest up like that. It doesn't work that way. So you need to build it up over time. You need to think what you want to do and start working towards it now. Similarly, over the last few years, we've seen a big increase in the number of students who want to go on to be games designers. Presumably they like playing video games and think this is what the job's about. It's not. If you want to be a games designer, there are a whole range of things you need to do in order to convince a university or an employer that you're someone who has the skills and interests they're looking for. Most obviously, start designing games, start writing code. Saying to a university or an employer, oh, I like playing video games, is not going to impress them. You actually have to have done something. So therefore, think about what you want to do in the future and start working towards it now. All sorts that you can do, but be a creator rather than a consumer. You cannot, again, say to a university, oh, I've watched all these videos on YouTube. Well, so have lots of people. Create content. Run your own YouTube channel. Be a blogger. You want to be involved in music. Play music. Do something. You have to do something to make yourself interesting so you've got something to say to employers and universities. Really doesn't matter what it is. If it's interesting to you, that's enough. Okay, you need that balance. You need that time away from school. I would say to some of you, you also need to have time in school as well as the time away from school. But you do need that extra time. You need to show that you're an interesting person. If you don't know what else to do, read. When you go to university, it doesn't matter what you're going to study, you're going to have to read. Read around the things that you enjoy and you're interested in and build up that wide knowledge and become an interesting person. Playing video games, eating Doritos, watching YouTube is not going to impress anyone. You actually have to do something, and it's show me what you've done, not tell me. I can say I've done anything. You need to be able to talk with authority because you've done something. Okay, well, thank you for sitting through that. I realise it's quite a long presentation, but it is important that students know what they're doing and make good choices. At this point, I would normally say any questions. So if you do have any questions, my email address is there. Please, please, please send me them. If you'd rather send them in Thai to Miss Aim, her email address is there. We can only help and we can only answer your questions if you ask them. We're more than happy to do it, but you need to ask them first, please. Thank you all very much, and I'll hopefully see you in school very soon.